It might sound crazy, but if you asked me what the most important thing in my life is, I'd say it's bleach. Instead of perfume, I use bleach. It gives me the feeling of being completely clean. Looking at myself in the mirror, my skin glowing and flushed, I smile confidently and step out of the bathroom, starting another boring day at work. Maybe my obsession with bleach began when I started working at this convenience store. Growing up in an orphanage, I didn't have much education. So working as a cleaning staff at the convenience store seemed like the perfect choice. Ignoring the awful attitude of my co-workers here. Since childhood, I've been obsessed with cleanliness, always trying to keep everything around me spotless. Not a speck of dust in sight. Every day I clean the store with bleach, and seeing everything shine gives me happiness. But prolonged exposure to bleach has made my hands dry, swollen, and painfully sore. Beneath the cracked skin, though, I could see the pinkish-white layer of skin I'd always desired. A customer appeared, looking at me with a disgusted expression as if I was some kind of pest. That look again. It makes me want to scream, but I know I have to control myself. I continue wiping the glass, inhaling the bleach fumes to calm down. But trouble finds me anyway. My boss mentioned some customers complaining about the overwhelming bleach smell in the store and a bunch of other unreasonable issues. I sigh, realizing I'm being mistreated again. Though questions fill my mind, I meekly bow my head and apologize. Back home, I comfort myself with a bleach bath. My skin looks smoother and rosier by the day. All thanks to the bleach and its scent. I found that pouring bleach on my wrists makes the smell linger, so I soaked a cloth in bleach to keep with me at all times. Now they've demoted me to cleaning the restrooms. Fine, at least I won't have to deal with people. But why is there no bleach in the restroom? Then, Amy's annoying voice rings out.
Looking for this?
Looking at her smug face, it's clear she's caught on to something and is trying to take my bleach.
The boss asked me to monitor your bleach use to keep this place from smelling awful. So a little bit should be enough, right?
Of course, she's targeting me. What did I do wrong? But a little bleach and a wipe isn't enough. I used up all of it within one morning. When the air was clean without a trace of bleach, I felt suffocated, dizzy. A wave of fear engulfed me. I needed bleach immediately. I sneaked back into the store and went to the cleaning supply aisle. While no one was watching, I grabbed a bottle of bleach and took a deep breath, feeling as though I had come alive again. I realized then that bleach had become an irreplaceable part of my life. But what I hadn't expected was that someone had been recording my every move, and now it's evidence to condemn me. But what am I guilty of? I'm addicted to bleach. So what? I haven't hurt anyone, yet here I am, treated like a scourge of society.
Jesus Christ! You should just quit and stop scaring people here.
Amy must be the one who reported me. The more I endured, the more she pushed me, so I stopped caring and lunged at her like a wild animal. The fight only ended when the police arrived and took me away. I felt like a rat in the sewer, shunned and isolated. Obviously, Amy started the whole thing, but she walks free while I'm locked up with no one to care or vouch for me. I wonder, if I were white, would I be humiliated like this? I doubt it. I decided that I would bleach my skin. After a long day in jail, I paid my fines and the store's compensation, and I was released. I used all my meager savings to order a few barrels of bleach to my home. Each bottle was poured into the bathtub, filling it. The air was thick with bleach wrapping around me. Looking at the shimmering yellow-green liquid in the tub, I cried tears of joy. To me, bleach is a miracle elixir. With it, I can change the skin color I despise. I slowly stepped into the tub, and a burning sensation engulfed my entire body. I told myself that if I endured just a bit of pain, I could have a new life. But the pain grew unbearable. I felt my flesh melting. I screamed in agony, emerging from the water. Before me was a tub filled with red. Horrified, I stood up, trying to step out. As soon as my feet touched the floor, an excruciating pain tore through me. Looking in the mirror, I saw my body dripping with blood and fluid, skin melting away. Tears streamed down as I reached for my phone to call for help. But before the ambulance arrived, I blacked out in pain, swallowed by endless darkness.
911, what's your emergency?
I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, but no matter how much I shifted under the covers, sleep wouldn't come. I sighed, deciding that a glass of water might help calm my restless mind. The kitchen was pitch dark, with just a sliver of light filtering in through the glass door facing the garden. I reached for a glass of water, but strangely, I couldn't grasp the glass in front of me. Maybe I was just dizzy, or perhaps it was because my foster mother had cooked me an incredibly delicious and hearty meal last night. But then something outside caught my attention. There, in the garden under the pale moonlight, was someone. A figure dressed in strange, flowing clothes, their movements slow and deliberate. It took me a moment to realize they were dancing. A stranger was dancing in my garden. I blinked, trying to make sense of the scene. The figure's arms moved gracefully, their feet sliding silently across the grass. It was almost hypnotic, the way they danced. But the sight filled me with unease. Why would someone be dancing in my yard in the middle of the night? I walked to the window for a closer look. I couldn't make out if it was a man or a woman, just that the person seemed completely absorbed in their strange, ritualistic movements. Something inside me pushed me to step outside, against my better judgment. Maybe it was the sheer weirdness of the situation. Maybe it was a gut instinct to confront the intruder. But I found myself stepping out into the cold night air. As I moved closer, what I saw next froze me in my tracks. My parents. They were there too, kneeling on the ground, facing the dancer. Their heads were bowed, and they were murmuring something in unison, a language I didn't recognize. The words were soft, foreign and unsettling, like a chant or prayer from some ancient ritual. "Mom? Dad!" I called out, my voice trembling. But they didn't respond. They didn't even flinch. They just continued bowing over and over, their hands clasped in front of them, like they were paying reverence to the dancing figure. My stomach twisted. I had never known them to be superstitious. Sure, they asked strange questions when they adopted me 3 months ago, about my birth date, my bloodline, even the specific time and place I was born, but I brushed it off as cultural quirks. Now though, seeing them like this, I realized how deeply rooted their beliefs were. I called out again, louder this time. "Mom! Dad! What are you doing?" Still no response. They kept chanting, their voices rising and falling with the rhythm of the dancers' movements. I started to panic, rushing forward to shake them out of whatever trance they were in, but something stopped me. I felt a force, cold, invisible, pulling me toward the center of the garden. It wasn't my own will driving me anymore. It was as if I was being drawn in, as if something was tugging at my very soul. My feet moved on their own, bringing me closer to the figure and my parents. The chanting grew louder, the air thicker with each step I took. And then I saw it. There, on the ground, was a body. A familiar body. It was me. I stumbled backward, the world spinning around me. My own face, pale and lifeless, stared back up at me from the cold earth. The lifeless body lay still, its eyes closed, its skin ashen under the moonlight. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. How could this be? I looked down at my hands, expecting to see flesh, but they were fading, translucent. My heart raced, and I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I was dead. No, it couldn't be. I was standing here. I was alive. Wasn't I? I reached out, but my hand passed through the grass, the earth, even my own body. The horrifying truth dawned on me. I had been dead all along. This was my corpse, and I wasn't supposed to be here. The figure stopped dancing and turned toward me. Behind the figure, I saw someone I didn't recognize. A young man, his eyes deep and sorrowful. He smiled, a sad, bittersweet smile, as if he knew exactly what had happened. And then it hit me. This wasn't just a séance. It was a ritual to bring him back. My foster parents had been performing a ceremony to call their lost child back from the dead. They had used me, my body, my soul, as the vessel, the man, Min. He stepped forward, his presence gentle but undeniable. I could feel his spirit pushing mine aside. I couldn't fight it. I didn't even want to. In that moment, I understood. My parents hadn't wanted me for who I was. They wanted me to bring their real child back, the one they had lost long ago. I had been nothing more than a temporary shell, a means to an end. As my soul began to fade, I felt an odd sense of peace. This was why I had been brought here. This was why they had adopted me. It was all to reunite with the child they truly loved. I looked at Min, standing over my body, ready to step into the life I had unknowingly borrowed. I wasn't angry. I wasn't afraid. I was just grateful. Thank you, I whispered to my parents, even though I knew they couldn't hear me. They had taken care of me in their own strange way. And now, I was giving them the chance to be whole again.
The next day, my 13th birthday arrived, but I couldn't shake the terror of what I had seen. My friends came over, excited to celebrate, but I couldn't focus on anything. My mum seemed extra enthusiastic. She'd arranged a surprise.
We're having a clown for the party,
She announced, beaming.
You used to love clowns, remember?
I felt my stomach churn. No, not anymore. Definitely not after yesterday. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her to cancel it. But before I could get the words out, the doorbell rang.
I'll get it,
My mum sang, walking over to the door. And then she let him in. It was him. The same clown from the park. The same horrifying grin smeared across his chubby, painted face. The same soulless eyes that had met mine just yesterday.
Hello, kiddos!
His voice was cheerful, too cheerful. My friends clapped and cheered, oblivious to the nightmare standing right in front of us. My heart raced. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move.
I have to go to the office for a bit, honey.
My mum said, pulling on her coat.
You kids behave and have fun with the clown, okay? I'll be back in no time.
No, Mom, don't go, I wanted to say, but the words stuck in my throat. She didn't notice my panic. She didn't know the truth. The clown waved goodbye to her, his smile lingering far too long, and when the door closed behind her, that's when the nightmare truly began. The clown started doing tricks, balloon animals, magic tricks, all the usual stuff. My friends loved it. They laughed, clapped, and played along, completely unaware of what I knew. I stayed silent, watching him, waiting for him to slip, to reveal his true nature. I could feel his eyes on me, though he never once looked directly at me. It was like he was toying with me, daring me to react. Then he suggested we play hide and seek.
Whoever I find first will get a special prize,
he said, grinning. Everyone scattered, laughing, not sensing the danger. I knew better. I ran to my room and crawled under the bed, my heart pounding in my ears. Minutes passed, and then I heard it. A scream. One of my friends cut off abruptly. The sound chilled me to the bone. Another scream followed, then another. My blood turned to ice as I realized my friends weren't playing anymore. They were being hunted. The footsteps grew louder, heavier, as the clown moved closer. I covered my mouth to stifle my breathing. I could hear him muttering under his breath, in a sing-song voice.
Where are you, birthday boy?
His voice was filled with false joy, but I could hear the malice underneath. The door to my room creaked open, and his footsteps paused. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying he wouldn't find me. He started walking around the room, his feet dragging against the floor. I could hear his shallow breathing getting closer and closer. And then, silence. I held my breath, terrified of making a sound. His hand shot under the bed, grabbing my shirt, and in one swift motion, he yanked me out. I tried to kick, but he was too strong. His gloved hand wrapped around my neck, the rope from yesterday in his other hand.
Found you!
He whispered, tightening the rope around my neck.
You saw me, didn't you? Yesterday, in the park.
I gasped for air, the rope digging into my skin. My vision blurred as he leaned in closer, his grin wider than ever.
Can't have you running off again, can we?
Just as I felt the world starting to fade, I heard it. My mum's voice screaming from the doorway. She must have come back early. The last thing I heard was the sound of my mum calling the police before everything went dark. I woke up in the hospital, my throat sore and a red mark still visible around my neck. My mum was there, her face pale and eyes red from crying. She told me the clown had escaped, fled through the back door before the police arrived. They were still searching for him, but deep down, I knew they'd never find him. The mark around my neck would eventually fade, but the memory of that grin, of those cold, lifeless eyes, would haunt me forever. The clown was still out there, waiting, and he knew exactly where to find me.